Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Hook Better Leads podcast. I'm with Katelynn Strawmatt of Paperboy Marketing today. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Doing very well. And we're talking about the 10 elements of an effective flyer.
Absolutely.
You know, we've talked about direct mail on this podcast before, and you guys don't do direct mail, but you do like flyering and like hand-delivered mail. So that's pretty cool.
A definite difference.
It's paperboymarketing.com.
Yes.
And but here's the deal, like you put out mail, you put out a flyer, you put out whatever, and making sure that the design actually catches people's attention seems to be very important.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of stuff that gets thrown away. So what can we do to increase our odds of not getting thrown away as quick?
Exactly.
Basically. And I have a couple questions for you, but the first one is around how do you get this piece of mail to communicate well and to connect with people?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's the key, right? Because just like you said, you're trying to avoid that recycling bin for as long as possible, right?
It's going to get there. It's going to get there.
I mean, of course, it is paper. It's still, a recyclable product. But there's a couple things you can do to make it just, catch the attention, right? That's what you want to do. So we use the 5-second rule, which is obviously just as it sounds. Mm-hmm. You want to grab that attention and that intrigue, and the person, the consumer needs to know, what is this thing that I got on my door, and why do I care about it? Mm-hmm. And you need to do that right away. Yeah. They need to know what that content is right away. So they need to know what your product or service
So you don't want to be mysterious and make it unclear what you're selling?
I would say that's kind of, there is that mystery aspect. Okay. Some people do like that. Yeah. I think that's a riskier gamble.
Yes.
I think you want to be right out there, know within the first few seconds what exactly this is. Mm-hmm. So if you have a flyer that's very clear, like you're a contractor, you're an electrician, you're a plumber, you're a hair salon, what have you, if people can connect with what you are offering right away, then you have the opportunity to continue that story a little bit. So you don't necessarily need to sell the company itself right away. You just need to have them go, might need an electrician. My roof's looking a little, questionable.
Yep.
A basement needs to be refinished, that kind of thing, right?
Every time I've been in person with prospects, like we did a trade show last week, and the last couple times we've done trade shows, I have gone away from cute and towards clever.
Sure.
Or no, away from cute and clever and towards clarity.
Yes.
I realized that like we did our first couple trade shows, the first one I was dressed as a wizard. And we said, we're going to tell you your marketing fortune and all this stuff. And
that's
it was fun.
Mystery.
Yeah, it was fun. But then the more we got down to it, people were just like, huh? And then walked.
Exactly.
And then walked. And then that's what you kind of get the same thing with print.
Exactly. Because they're standing in their own home. They're on their own time. It's kind of like you don't want to force or impose your cute, quirky idea on them. So they have to take their own personal time to digest it. Mm-hmm. And it might be cute and quirky and funny and great, but not in that media, right? Mm-hmm. Like you have to sell that need right away. And then maybe as you tell your company's story, you show your cute, quirky side.
I feel like billboards are a little bit more like, I could see some, I like those, but I also want to know what you do, and I want to know what the action is.
Exactly. That I definitely liken it to a billboard, and I like a billboard in your home is kind of how I think it makes sense, because just like, you're driving down the highway, you've got a few seconds to figure out what the heck is this company. Yeah. And they wouldn't necessarily even have, the contact information on that billboard. It's just, who are you? Or do I need that thing that's up there? Do I want to learn more? Do I want to take that further? And that's what the flyer and those first few seconds should do. It should guide the consumer to say, I want to continue down this, marketing journey with this thing that ended up on my door.
Absolutely. So let's get into if we're designing this thing, we're at Photoshop right now or whatever. What is the first thing that you're thinking about in relation to how well it communicates?
Yep. Okay. So just a little bit briefly. So that headline at the very top, the first message that they read, it doesn't necessarily need to speak to your company. It needs to speak to what you do. So instead of saying like, Paris painting is the, greatest, whatever, it would say a painter who cares.
Yeah.
Or, like a trustworthy roofing contractor or something like that. So it gets right to what is the purpose.
And I like you have on your,
to solve.
We talked a little bit about like the pain, what problem does it solve?
Exactly.
Like, because if you can't relate to a direct problem, it's, almost you have to bring that out a little bit, I feel like, in headlines
exactly.
too.
You need to appeal to that emotion, that curiosity, that pain that they're having, or perhaps some sort of a social message, like the number one realtor in Plymouth, or
I like that.
like bringing in one of those 4 components.
Location. So it's like this anchoring thing where it's like this person, this is for me.
It kind of, I feel like it legitimizes that company within their community, and there's safety in numbers kind of a thing, and so you're like, oh gosh, this is apparently who I call for this in.
I love that.
Plymouth.
I love that, and the social thing, the anchoring, the location, the number, you even said the number there, so that's brilliant. And then I love this idea that comes from Seth Godin that says, really what we're getting at is we want to create the feeling of people like me do things like this.
Yes, exactly. That's so, I love that. I kind of feel like people are they're weary, right? They're tired of making the decisions sometimes, and so it's like if you can just find comfort in the company's reputation, or that their neighbors are using them, and it's like, okay, that weight of the making of the decision is lifted from me, and they don't have to worry about it.
I love that. And I mean, I just also on Wednesday I just went out and door knocked with a roofing company, and it was a good experience, and I learned a lot. And I think that's something that they're trying to leverage. Like, we've worked with your neighbor.
Absolutely.
People in your area are doing this.
Exactly.
They're getting their roof paid for by insurance because of hail damage. And like basically they're doing that in person, one-to-one. And if you can just do that with a piece of paper,
Right. Exactly. Especially in these trades businesses where, you have to work for your reputation, and there's a lot of, the stand in a van or, a handyman that says they can do it. And so you're kind of combating a negative connotation a little bit. And so that is so important to drive home, like, why should people be choosing you over, maybe a cheaper quote or something like that. Absolutely.
How do pictures do that?
Okay, so the picture thing kind of goes back to you're kind of capturing that person's energy for a brief moment, and so it needs to be consumable. So the picture has to show the product or service in a positive way, and be able to be understood without the text, and the text without the picture. So people's brains work differently, so you have to hit one or the other, and the person again has to. People are making that constant choice, like, am I going to keep digesting this piece in my hand? And if you make that as easy as possible for them, then they'll keep going with you, right? They'll start to turn it over, and they'll start to read what you're saying and whatnot. But if you see the front of a flyer and it's got, 5 different pictures and a bunch of words that aren't really hitting home with the person immediately, they're just going to tune out, and it's just going to go right in that garbage can right away. So the picture has to work without text. The text has to work without pictures. And kind of to continue that, it needs to be audience appropriate. You can't be using too much technical jargon. You can't be trying to be too, I'll age myself when I say this, even, too hip and contemporary in your language. Like, speak in a way that's professional but warm and non-threatening, but that shows that you're a legitimate company, right? So you have to find that balance.
I like that. So you're kind of riding that line of like not too formal, but like
Right.
let's not like pretend that we're 18 and we're
Sure,
trying to like,
exactly.
and most of the homeowners aren't going to be that age bracket anyway, so it's
Right,
okay to go
right,
hard
right.
on professional, somewhat simple language
Yes.
that hits emotional hot buttons.
Exactly. Simple and professional. But so that it's not intimidating, right? Because hiring a contractor or having work done on your home, it's new territory for most people. Like it's not something that we're doing every day. It's not like going to get your hair cut or something, or going to Starbucks. It's a different kind of interaction, and there's already a feeling of unease, I think, going into it. And so if you can portray your company in a friendly, we're in this together kind of tone, that just goes so far in this industry, especially. And then of course the flyer has to be visually appealing, right? So it has to be cohesive. It can't be, all colors that aren't that don't go well together. It can't be all hodgepodgey. It needs to look good and have flow, because the goal is to get this to be staying around in this home, right, until they need your product or service. So if it looks nice, you're more likely to
stay on the counter for a little longer.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Exactly, right?
Awesome. Okay, so we talk about in sales, we talk about kind of addressing objections. So how can you do that a little bit in or I guess you have it down here as addressing potential barriers to action. How can you do that in a flyer?
Yep. Okay. Absolutely. So just like we spoke about that social proof aspect, that you're creating that feeling of ease by telling the homeowner that your friends and neighbors and people in your community have already used our service. They've had great results. You can get very specific in those quotes about what exactly these people liked about that interaction with you.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity to just let them brag on you, right? It's just a third-party independent observation of their experience with you.
Yep.
And they're able to just say what was important to them and how your company met those needs for them.
Awesome.
And I think even more so than the quality of the work, that's always great, of course, to talk about, but just having a quote that talks about how you made them feel, that's what really hits that emotional side, right?
I like that.
Because you're not trying to convince the consumer necessarily to finish their basement or get their roof done. Usually that's a need they know they have, and so you need to connect to that emotion.
How is it going to be to work with you, though?
Yes, exactly.
What does that feel like?
Exactly,
I totally understand.
right. And with that social proof, you're letting somebody else tell that story for you.
I love that. And I think sometimes in testimonials or reviews, I like reviews. I like to actually put, because we're on the web, so Google and the actual 5 stars and even the photo of the person. That's my favorite way to do those.
Absolutely.
On a website. And
Yep.
I think about when it's a testimonial where they talked about something that you didn't really realize was a value proposition, are sometimes the best ones. Like I didn't know, like for our services, like saving time was a big thing that 2 people hammered on when we did a video testimonial, and I was like, I didn't really realize that was such a big deal to them. I thought it was like we were just this advanced, cool marketing company.
Sure.
And they're just like, saving time was the biggest deal. I don't have time for this.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
100% it makes sense. Or something that resonates with me in our world of home service businesses is if they cared about my home, they left it better than when they came as far as cleanliness. They kept our pets safe. Just like dumb little things like that it clicks with that emotion of a person. Like they took the care to make sure that our gates were shut and our storm doors were always shut, and that kind of thing. Exactly, it matters. Or they were so careful to take their shoes off when coming in and out, like all of that kind of little stuff. If you find a good quote or a quote or two, that hits to those kind of like nuanced interactions.
I love that. It just shows also that like that's one, you're zooming in on one small detail because you can't show them all.
Right.
And the details are nice.
Yes.
So like the pet thing, it's like that's one little detail, but that means they care.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's an opportunity to plant the seed because you assume if the company is going to care so much about, the pets or the taking their shoes off or what have you, then that is like paints it with a broad brush of like this company cares.
Yes,
they're
absolutely.
going to respect my home.
Totally.
And then another piece that's super important to addressing barriers to action, and this would speak to more like why would I choose this company over another? So if you're involved in your community, if you're sponsoring the local baseball team, if you're doing a Toys for Tots drive, if you collect canned goods for the food shelf, anything like that, if you are a lifelong resident of Buffalo or wherever you're marketing, that is a way to just tell your story, right? And that pushes the homeowner in the direction to choose you over somebody else, because again, you've got the social piece, you've got the care piece, you've got, and there are so many communities where they're very tight knit and they want the hometown guy kind of a thing, especially I think in the trades. And so tell that, share that, show a picture of your team with your Susan G. Komen check that you're donating, or with all of the toys that you collected, because I think so frequently, especially in the trades, like I said, you're not trying to sell someone on doing a project, you're trying to sell them on doing it with you. And so they need to know, why should I choose this guy? Of course you're going to show your accreditations and your licensures and all of those things, and that should be, we're assuming these are all legitimate, well-respected businesses, and so when they have to tip the scale towards one, those are things that could do it.
Totally, I like that. All right, what's the next one here?
Okay, so anticipating common questions about the product or service. I think this especially resonates in the roofing industry. You're dealing with insurance claims. It's, the roof is a pretty big deal. It's a big ticket item. Do as much as you can to explain the process on that flyer so there isn't hesitation, so they don't have the concern and uneasiness about what the process is going to look like.
Okay.
That can be just a couple sentences. We come to your house, we assess the damage, we schedule with your insurance company, we'll be there together, we'll be your teammate in this process, we'll handle all of that paperwork for you, those kinds of things. So explain the process, take away the worry, and just you're preventing that barrier. That's not an excuse they could use to put off doing the project.
Awesome, I love it. And now to my favorite part. Call to action. Is it clear what to do next? So
right.
How can we make sure that this isn't a wasted piece of paper for our business?
Exactly.
This is how it becomes sales. So what's next?
Right, exactly. So they need to say, oh yeah, this sounds great, what do I do now? It can't be left hanging. Don't just have your phone number and website at the bottom with no steps, no action. So you need action steps.
It's okay to be explicit. Like, it's okay to say exactly what to do next.
Because that just goes back to, people don't want to have to work too hard to do this. They don't want to have to try to figure out where to call, or if I should call, or do they prefer a text, or do I schedule online, or how does this company operate? At that point, if the consumer is having to go through all of that work and that swirl to get to that action step, that's when they check out.
Because some people's websites, it's not very clear what they want you to do.
Yes,
definitely.
Right.
Even just going to a website, if you had your website on there and say, visit our website.
Right.
To get started, what am I going to be doing on there?
Yes, exactly. Right.
Because I don't know, people are getting better. But you've been to enough websites where it's unclear, and you're just kind of like, to go to that website it's emotional energy.
Yes, exactly.
So, and we're all the tired homeowner that doesn't have time for this sometimes, right? So empathize with these people and say exactly what it is.
Call blah 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 number today to get this, or
free estimate or whatever.
Right, exactly. Or schedule online, or easy online scheduler here. Or
that's beautiful.
Just something, and it's
just
so basic.
but we're empathizing.
Exactly.
Empathy
Right.
is the foundation of good marketing.
Exactly.
And you're saying it's not unclear what you're going to do when you go to this website. And here's exactly what we want you to do, and do it today.
Exactly.
You know, like,
and you're setting that tone that this process will be easy for you. We'll do the thinking for you, right?
Yeah.
We'll tell you exactly what to do.
That's
it
so
won't
good.
Be a burden on you, right?
I love that because that's what I get when I'm in person with somebody and they have authority, when they act with authority and they're like, do this.
Yes.
Do this.
Yes, exactly.
Do this. I'm actually comforted personally. Like, that's why I love to go to a restaurant where they just choose the food for me.
Prefix.
That's actually amazing sometimes. Like, I'm not that picky, so it works. But I basically, like, if you're doing that, you know, they generally, when people do that, you have a good experience because they have so much authority. They've done this so many times before that you're good to go. So I think it's okay to strike this kind of authority tone.
Agreed.
At the right moments with prospects that are coming down the funnel, basically.
Right. Absolutely, because there's comfort in interacting with someone who would put themselves in that position of authority, right? There's the assumption that, okay, if they're using that bold language, clearly they know what they're doing, right? Yep. I can be at ease.
And
exactly.
I love pairing that social proof, we talked about reviews and stuff like that, very close to the call to action. So you get a little bit of that. They've done this before, and here's what to do. Yes,
exactly. Yeah. Perfect. Just kind of, roll right into the, you've got that emotion, and then they're riding that emotional, high. I know that's pretty dramatic language.
Let's do it. Let's go.
We made them feel amazing, and then they're like, oh, I'm gonna schedule a free estimate online right now.
I love it. If you paired a good photo, like of a not too stock photo-y family enjoying this painted space, and then we get a good testimonial about the dog, and there is an emotional like momentum here. And now I need to know what to do. How can you use strategic offers on print?
Okay, this one is, I don't think it's as obvious. Because a strategic offer, so a flyer is not that discount-oriented piece, right? It's not like a coupon book ad or a magazine, discount magazine ad. We're not going for the tire kickers and the bargain hunter DIY types. So we're not really using a discounted offer on a flyer to attract people that want that discount. What that's really doing is it's a pre-qualifier. And so you're putting out a price, bathrooms starting at $7,000 or
starting at prices.
Yes.
Okay, I like that.
But that because that the person that acts on your flyer will at least be comfortable with spending that price.
That's good.
Because if they're trying to get, the $39.99 bathroom, they're just not going to bother calling you, and they're not going to waste your time. And it's quality, not quantity, when you're talking about leads, right? If you go on 100 sales appointments and 70 of them are bad, that's not a win.
Yeah.
If you just got, 30 to 50 quality leads initially, your SR is so much higher. You're not wasting your time. It's just a way to kind of weed out the people that just aren't a good fit for your product.
That's good.
Right?
That's good. Yeah, we just recently put pricing on our website, and it was scary, and there's less leads. But the leads that we are getting are way better.
Yes, exactly.
I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you don't waste your time. Not that educating people is bad. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's not the goal of your sales, right?
Yeah, and it can be very expensive to have salespeople sitting around doing education.
And they're going from house to house all over the place. Yeah. And it's just for not a good reason, right?
And sometimes, like, you think about it, if you put that on there, starting at $7,000 or whatever, and you've got this other thing that happens with the design where and the copy, and you're thinking about it, it's like, I need to make sure we're answering the question, why are we more expensive than some people?
Yes.
And I think that's a really good place to be with your marketing. If you're trying to answer, and ideally maybe in bullet points real quick why we're more expensive, it's a good mindset. I've seen people do Google ads that say not the cheapest but the best, those kind of things are around pricing. and it's just a reminder, I think, if you put pricing on there as a reminder to answer that question, I think it's good.
Yes, absolutely. You get what you pay for, of course, and everybody knows that. But some people just don't want to make that investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just, it's a risk that they're willing to take to not spend that money.
And you kind of got to tell them what the risk is too.
Right.
On the other,
Yep.
like, I don't know if it's on this print piece, but like somewhere in your marketing, you should be talking about, like, I just did like a marketing fails.
Sure. Right.
Like white paper, because I'm like, I want this to go out to prospects. Like these, I found, I'm not saying who they are, but I found 7 big fails from other marketing companies.
Sure.
I'm not even saying, I'm just saying, like, if you hire cheap, you get cheap.
Yep.
And I know it's scary to do that, but ultimately when you get really adamant that you're good or the best.
I was going to say the best.
When you're the best, you see these examples and you come across shoddy workmanship.
Right.
And you want to share that this is possible.
Right.
Because you start to get sick of cleaning up other people's messes, and you want to tell them about the messes before they have to go through it.
Right. And so I really firmly believe that I don't want to disparage other companies. To make
I didn't put any
better.
logos on there. I don't even know if this is right.
In general.
Yeah.
No, but how I would do that is with the headline, like, finally a trustworthy roofing contractor, or some social proof that speaks to. I'm thinking of one on a flyer we're doing right now. That was, my mom went through a horrible experience with the first contractor we hired, and I'm so thankful for ABC Company that came in and really took care of her and made her feel,
great.
at ease. So there are ways.
That's the best way. I literally haven't put this thing out yet. I just wanted to collect it, and I'm trying to figure out if I should or should not use it. I do get mad when I see people get ripped off.
Of course, right.
But I think you're right. Like, ideally, you sprinkle, like, you Salt Bay just a little bit of fear in there just to help.
Healthy dose of fear.
Right? I mean, realistically, though, there are failures.
Yes.
In your guys' line of work, in our line of work, and just making sure that they know that they exist and it is a possible future.
Absolutely. And so again, that's why I think when you speak to the benefits, why your company is great, why your price is higher, what extra services or securities or comforts do you provide your consumer, then that will, what those other companies are doing, it becomes obvious that they're not doing those things that you're doing. And so
be very light on that.
Well, I don't know. I
think you're right.
Of course, I like to not. I don't want, like I said, I don't want to use making other companies look bad to make mine look good. I can make my company look good just because we are. And whether or not other companies are doing things the same way that we are, that's not my concern. I know we are, and this is why our price is what it is.
I'm not saying it's right. I just know I get angry at people that rip people off, and I want to make sure people know about it. And that's, my wife tells me to chill and not worry about it. And I'm always, like, I really care a lot about our customers. And I think that there's a lot of company owners that are trying to do marketing that also get a little frustrated seeing bad workmanship or things like that. So it's hard. It's kind of hard not to use that in your marketing.
Well, from our perspective, and so flyer delivery, it doesn't have the greatest reputation. And that's because of, I will say, there are other companies that are just not doing things well. And they don't have the integrity, and they don't have the technology that we use when we deliver to prove, what we've delivered. They don't use the same.
Because you guys use like GoPros and stuff to make sure that people can actually check in.
Yes. And GPS tracking, so they can see where their flyer was delivered. We use a specific rubber band to attach to the doorknob versus those little cutout flyers that end up blowing all over.
I was out actually doing door knocking 2 days ago, I think now. And I saw one of those down off to the side.
Exactly.
And it was the one that gets hang. It didn't have a rubber band or anything on it.
Right. And so what I do is our contractors pick those up and bring those in. And that is an opportunity for me to, maybe not saying you would, but I could call them up and say, hey, we
Just so
found
you
this
know.
on the ground.
Yeah.
I think that your company, whoever did this,
It's an
did a
option.
bad
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
Right.
Maybe it's a
but-
little bit more at the sales level and not at the marketing level, because it does expose you to risk by broadcasting
Right.
that
Right.
you saw bad workmanship.
Right.
But maybe on the one-to-one level, you can have that conversation with somebody that's trusted and they're asking about that.
Sure. Right. Well, so I would enter the conversation just in a framework of, I can help you. I know that you're wanting this type of service, and I can help you make it better.
Yeah. I like that a lot. That's a
versus-
great mindset to be
yeah.
in. Yeah, exactly.
So I wouldn't call up and say, like I initially said, hey, somebody did a horrible job for you. I would just say, I know you're using this service already. My company does this as well. Here are some things I think that we could help you out with, or what have you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Balance.
So if people are in the Minneapolis, just broader Twin Cities area.
Yes, the Twin Cities Metro.
Paperboy Marketing does flyering, and it's kind of got this mindset about what's really effective, and they go hand to door basically.
Yes.
And do this, and it's different than a lot of these mailer type direct mail. We're not even saying it. Bleep
it's
that
just
out.
very different.
Yeah.
I could speak to that, but it's on another podcast.
Yeah, but like this one-to-one thing, and not getting lost in a group of other mail.
One-to-one, very targeted, strategic. We can use a lot of different data to determine where we're going to deliver your flyers versus sending 50,000 Valpak ads or something like that. It's just different.
So who is the right fit for these services? Paperboy Marketing in Minneapolis, Twin Cities area, they need this. They need something like this. Who is the right fit in your experience?
Great question. So one of the big benefits of Paperboy is that it's targeted marketing. So you're reaching the consumers that meet your demographic. Whatever that may be, for whatever reason you're choosing them. Maybe it's...
Say I want to just do flyers to Andover, Minnesota.
Right, but sure, of course we can do that, but let's get smarter about it, right? So if you work in your business is operating in Andover, you're a construction company, you're a remodeler, you're an electrician, what have you, and you want to grow in Andover. And you might know you want to grow in Andover. Maybe you don't even live there, but maybe you have a higher ROI in Andover. Maybe you have a higher success ratio in Andover. Maybe you have a higher average job size in Andover. We can use data like that.
Are roofers doing this after storms?
Oh, sure, absolutely, absolutely.
What are the other kind of home services that might use this in specific times?
Sure. So this is the kind of thing that you could kind of turn on and off, but there is that pre-planning required. So obviously we'd have to go through the work of designing the flyer and everything, and getting some sort of a delivery schedule happening. But
are people hitting the same areas over and over again?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
With different offers?
So
or the same offer usually?
Well, so we're not really looking to an offer, right?
Yeah.
But yes, so a painting company might deliver to the same area 3 times in one, March to November season kind of a thing.
And I saw your guys' flyer one time when I was looking at buying a home, and I remember noting it and being like, ooh, that's nice.
Yes,
it looked good.
Thank you, exactly. Right, exactly. You saw that. Oh,
I saw it, and
nice
I said, that's
piece.
nice, and then I later connected with Jason.
Right.
And I remembered that piece of mail that I saw that was
not
really,
mail.
Okay. It was in the mailbox in this situation.
Okay, sure.
And maybe
a
that's
newspaper box, a newspaper box?
Yes, newspaper box.
Sure. So let me just cover that quickly. So in areas where people are getting their mail at the street, so we found that there's generally a higher ROI to deliver that flyer. We're not just throwing it in the newspaper box. We use an adhesive and stick that flyer to the interior of the newspaper box, hanging out a couple inches.
I saw that,
Exactly. And so it's kind of like I said, that billboard. And so they have to physically remove that from the newspaper box. But
because I was just walking by, I wasn't I wasn't the homeowner.
Right.
I saw
and so people that live in an area like that, they're usually they roll up, they get their mail, they grab that flyer, and they hit the garage door opener and go right in and go into the house through the garage. They're not even using their front door. So that flyer isn't going to be most prominent at the front door, it's going to be more prominent.
That makes a
down
lot of sense.
where the mail is. That's
Love
what
it.
they're getting.
So what should somebody do if they want to work with you guys? What's the next step?
I need a strong call to action here,
Yes.
right?
Hey, however you want to do it. Honestly, just the .com will work too.
Sure, perfect. That would not pass my test
Okay.
of a strong call to action. But yes, in this situation, I think a great first step would be to go to paperboymarketing.com. There's a lot of information on there that's very easy to consume,
Yes.
and you can see pictures of flyers delivered. You can look at the GPS that we show with the delivery in the video, and you can get an idea of
That's the
what
coolest
we
part
do.
to me.
Right.
From an outsider's perspective, and I haven't done a lot of this, that's just super cool.
Yes, I love it too. I think there's so much transparency, and there isn't any concern with, is somebody going to throw these in a swamp? No, that didn't happen, and I know that because I have video of your delivery, and I have the GPS tracking on it, and you can follow along. We add that GPS.
You probably don't
tracking
have
every
that
day.
if you're having an internal employee do that either.
Exactly. I have never had a company that was doing flyers internally not have a higher success ratio when they start using our service. It's just, and plus all of the design work that we talked about, that's included in our price.
Awesome.
So it's going to be a bigger win for the customer if they use our service, and so we've just included that in the price.
Awesome. Appreciate this very much, Katelynn. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Paperboymarketing.com, and of course the podcast put on hookagency.com. Hook Agency all over social. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.